Hello and welcome to episode 17 of the Tyre Recycling podcast, and welcome to our last episode for 2020. In what has been a tough year for everyone, and not just in business terms, Tyre Rubber Recycling, like we imagine our listeners and viewers, are excited to see what 2021 brings. But before that, we've got one more episode to finish off. Ewan, how are you? And are you looking forward to this final episode for 2020?
I'm fine. I'm definitely looking forward to this one because this is about a new pyrolysis plant, but one that has been tried and tested and is known to work. So it'll be interesting to hear what Evgeni Grozev has to tell us about Pyro One in Rotterdam.
Definitely. Well, as listeners to this podcast will be well aware, we have taken a keen interest in the burgeoning world of tyre pyrolysis in our podcast, and we talked to numerous people from across, not just in Europe, but in the US. In the US with Bryce Powell, and did Malaysia and Australia with KJ Lee from Lee Tyre and Oil. So it's going to be great to hear from yet another player. So what do you expect Evgeni to tell us about?
I'm hoping that he's going to tell us a little bit about why they chose to set up in Rotterdam and how they have managed to take a lead in developing a plant in the Netherlands, whilst some of the other competitors are still struggling to get off the ground, Carbon Black Bear accepted.
Indeed. Well, that sounds fantastic. Well, the time has come for me and you to stop talking about the interview and time to listen to Evgeni Grozev, the director at Pyro One.
Today, we're speaking with Evgeni Grozev from Pyro One BV in the Netherlands. Evgeni, can you tell us a bit about the history of Pyro One?
Yeah, Pyro One is a company established about a year ago with the goal to process waste tires and other feedstock into valuable products. So our goal is to make a circular economy in Rotterdam area. Pyro One is located at Plant One Rotterdam, which is innovation center. One of the shareholders of Pyro One is also the owner of Plant One Rotterdam, Mr. Gabriel Chin. I'm the other shareholders, and we have a third shareholder who is a collector of waste tires, Redek company in Netherlands. So the reason to create this company is because we have proven technology, more than 20,000 hours of research and development work. We passed through several steps. So first we built a laboratory model, and after this we built a small commercial test unit, 300 kilograms per hour. We proved the concept, and then we designed 1 ton per hour plant, which was proven 3,600 hours. The products that we produce from the commercial test, they are already sold in the market to a big tire company, and also the oil is sold to a big chemical company. And what we want to demonstrate at Rotterdam is a working commercial plant with our certificates. We have chain integration of other technologies. So we provide a complete concept of the technology. So we don't provide only pyrolysis technology. Well, we also recycle wastewater. We also capture the CO2 from the chimney, meaning that we don't have any emissions. So it's the first in the world, no waste, no emission plant.
Okay, and the equipment that you use at this plant, has it been manufactured in Europe, or have you imported?
Yeah, manufactured in Europe. Yeah, the equipment is
European manufactured equipment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we use the most reliable companies to supply different parts like pumps, valves. The reactor is supplied by a reliable company, so everything is high standard.
Okay. Can I ask you, why have you chosen Rotterdam as a base?
Because first, Netherlands is a country where you can do innovation very easily. And Rotterdam is the location where the world can see what we are doing now.
Okay. And I've looked at some of your information, and your output in terms of pyrolysis, you're producing 50% oil, 50% recovered carbon black. Is that correct?
No, we say from 1 ton of tires, we extract 45% of oil, 45% of recovered carbon black, and 10% of synthetic gas. So the synthetic gas is used, part of the synthetic gas is used to run the plant. So it's self-efficient technology, and the rest is used for steam production. We also we have heat integration that we're using the heat for the CO2 capturing. So it's quite efficient technology. It's 95% efficient.
That's a high efficiency plant.
Yeah, it's high efficiency plant.
Yeah. Okay. And the markets for the output, do you have consistent markets for your output?
Yeah, at the moment, Big Tyre company, we passed 2 years test with them. So they make a small laboratory test. After this, they go to commercial test. And now we sold this product to a Big Tyre company.
Okay, and the oil obviously is not an issue. You can find markets.
Oil is not an issue because you can sell to everyone. It's just oil. Yeah.
Okay. Now the specification for your recovered carbon black. Are you managing to have a sustainable quality of output?
Yeah, that's why the Big Tyre company I mentioned, they've done a lot of tests with different batches that we produce, just to be sure that we produce constant quantity. And they confirm that we produce a constant quantity. And our specification is close to carbon black N7 series. So they use it for tire production at the moment. Okay.
It's always good to hear of pyrolysis companies actually managing to hit the target and reach the tire manufacturers, because for many years the tire manufacturers talked about looking at carbon black, recovered carbon black, but they didn't actually use it. But in recent years, things have changed. What do you think has brought about the change in the market that the tire manufacturers are now interested in pyrolysis black?
This is because the circular economy. Because as in the fuel, when you go to the petrol station, you can see the fuels contain some percentage of biofuels. So, for example, the gasoline contain bioethanol, the diesel contain biodiesel. And I think the same will happen with the tire companies. So they will require some percentage in the legislation that need to be used recovered carbon black. And this is normal because we are trying to do circular economy.
Okay. So do you think that legislation will be the driver to increased markets for recovered carbon black and recovered oil?
Yeah, I believe this will happen. There is already a directive for alternative fuels. So some percentage of alternative fuels must go to the market. And this will happen also with the recovered carbon black.
Okay. And coming back to your plant, your feedstock for the plant, are you looking at a mix of tires, car tires, truck tires?
Yeah, it's a mixture. It's a mixture between car and truck tires, the feedstock, yeah.
And do you use whole tires, or do you pre-shred or granulate?
We receive the tire shred without metals from Redek, who is one of the shareholders of Pyro One.
Okay. So, and you have off-take agreements for your output?
Yeah, we have agreements for the feedstock, and we have agreements for off-take of the products.
Okay. When do you expect the plant to be in operation?
Currently, we are doing commissioning. We are testing different systems, so they work well. I guess February will be in operational.
Okay, so that would be, you'd be looking forward to getting back in business and producing recovered carbon black and oil again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And the whole process is in-house. You
Yes.
refine the carbon black in-house.
Yeah, it's one place where we have continuously pyrolysis, and next to the pyrolysis we have carbon black treatment unit. Because the pyrolysis unit produces carbon char, it's not suitable for. Yeah. So we have a carbon black treatment next to the pyrolysis. So they're connected actually.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah. For example, we're also trying to test other feedstocks, not only tires, because pyrolysis is suitable for other constantly feedstocks. So the tires are one issue, but we are going to test PPP. We are going to upgrade the pyrolysis carbon black into active carbon. We've done this in laboratory, it's already done, but now we want to try commercial. And the value of the active coal is much higher than the recovered carbon black.
Yeah, I mean, by extending your coverage to plastics, you're expanding the market, and you're almost pushing an open door. It's probably one of the better ways of treating plastics, and it is truly circular in that if you process plastics, you get oil, and that oil can go back into making more plastics or fuel or whatever. So
yeah, but even the tire oil, the tire pyrolysis oil is suitable for plastic.
Yeah. So it's pyrolysis it has a bad press around the world because of some past history, but as it modernizes and we look at plants like yours with European standards, it becomes very clean and a very viable solution to modern world wastes such as plastics and tires.
And that's it for our interview with Evgeni Grozev. Ewan, what did you make of that short conversation?
It was interesting to see the input from a tire importer and wholesaler. The shareholder in that he mentioned, Redek, is actually Tyre BV, which is a subsidiary of Redek Used Tires BV, which again is part of the Redek Group, who are one of the larger tire importers and wholesalers in the Netherlands. So that in itself is interesting to see that there are people in the tire industry, in the distribution of tires, taking an important role in not just in collecting used tires, but now in recycling them. That was something that was always kept at distance in the past, and Pyro One BV seemed to have broken that barrier and made a connection at the feedstock end with a company that is heavily involved in tires. It will also be interesting to see how they develop the market for the end product. Evgeni spoke about working with tyre manufacturers and a large tyre manufacturer approving of his product. Now, being a cynical journalist, I've heard that from so many pyrolysis projects over the years. It will be interesting to see if Pyro One actually make that come true. Of course, as we speak, Scandinavian Enviro Systems have released news just today on the 22nd of December that they have finally reached agreement with Michelin for Michelin to build their own tyre pyrolysis plants based on Scandinavian Enviro's technology. So we've seen some game changers just at the end of the year here. So it's good news for the pyrolysis sector, good news for the tyre industry, good news for tyre recycling. If at the end of this dreadful year, we're starting to see some good news for the business.
Definitely, I think it's. I mean, this news from Enviro just goes off the back of the news we've seen from Pyro in the last few months, and Michelin, and the good news from Michelin's Black Cycle project. It seems like one after another at the moment, and people are quite under rushing. Not rushing to make announcements, but there seems like a lot of good news, especially in tyre pyrolysis within Europe to start with. But picking back up off your point of how Jenny referenced that a tyre manufacturer is very happy with the output of the process. It'll be interesting to find out who that company is in the future, because I'm sure there are a lot of a lot of non-disclosure agreements going on with that type of thing. So it'll be interesting to find out who is the reference point for their process.
Absolutely. I mean, for the next issue of Tyre Rubber Recycling, we are looking at the pyrolysis industry in a little more depth than normal, because we want to try and, if you like, separate the sheep from the goats. There are so many companies claiming to be involved in tyre pyrolysis, but when you do a bit of digging, there's not quite so many of them actually operating plants. It's not an easy business to get into. We have spoken to some industry experts, unfortunately off the record, but it's going to be an interesting article in the magazine, and off the back of interviews with people like Evgeni, with Tony Wibbler at Boulder Industries, with Thomas Sorensen at Enviro, and a few others, we hope to put together a podcast that looks into the pyrolysis sector in quite some depth. Mm-hmm. But that's for the new year.
Definitely. Do you think that we're going to see a continuation of the positive news stories we've seen in the tyre pyrolysis sector of the tyre recycling market? Because we're seeing such a lot of activity at the moment, not just in terms of factories being open, but investments and reference, people claiming how good their processes are and the success they're having. Do you think we're going to see that continue in 2021?
Absolutely. Where Michelin, the tyre manufacturers might not like this, but where Michelin leads, others will follow. Bridgestone has agreements with Boulder Industries in America. Pyrolysis had an agreement with Continental. Unfortunately, Pyrolysis was underfunded, and I am told top heavy in its management. Its people were so busy out trying to get offtake agreements arranged that they neglected the technical side of things and ended up in trouble with their plant manufacturer, Zeppelin, who, and if you end up with your plant manufacturer taking you to court, then you've got a big problem. But that aside, there are a number of established pyrolysis companies like Boulder, like Delta, like Enviro, Alpha Carbone in France, Pyrum, who have the basis, the stable basis, and the capability to produce both quality oil and recovered carbon black at a consistent specification. And that is critical. The one point where they all fall down a little bit is in volume. But that will be addressed as the tyre manufacturers get involved. Because they will specify what they want. And they will help fund plants and projects that can supply them with what they want. And the tyre manufacturers are used to getting virgin carbon black of a specification, but they are aware that the carbon black to a specification that comes from two different plants, even in the same company, may have variations depending on the location of its production. So they are in control of that. And one of the things that the pyrolysis sector, and giving things away here, one of the things that the pyrolysis sector needs to get to grips with is that the virgin carbon black industry has been working with the tyre manufacturers for 100 years. They have built up relationships, they've built up specifications, technical know-how that just isn't generally available to newcomers to the business. So, but more of that in our New Year's New Year issue, and hopefully in our documentary podcast on pyrolysis.
Absolutely. Well, it makes for very interesting viewing for 2021, that is for sure. But thank you for your time today, Ewan, and thank you for all your efforts with the podcast this year. And thank you to all of our viewers who've tuned in and listened to the Tyre Recycling podcast in 2020. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year wherever you are in the world, and we look forward to welcoming you back in 2021.